But what they did with Pyke is they made Pyke the most broken mid laner in the game. Do you guys remember Evelynn mid lane? This is Evelynn mid lane on steroids. High mobility, true damage, playmaking monster, plus insane wave clear right now with a third ability. They made Pyke probably one of the most broken champions that you guys need to ban every game in ranked, because in ranked you have fiestas and Pyke excels in fiestas. Hey, what's up guys, Darkbreaker here, and welcome to today's tier list for patch 4.1. Patch 4.1 is bringing a huge meta shift in my opinion. We have a bunch of balance changes for champions. On top of that, we have the new champion Argot, and then we also have the new tank items getting released. Mantle of 12 Hour, then Emerald Twin Guard, plus wait, what's the name again? Crown. Something with crown. Where's the name? Searing Crown. Searing Crown, my bad. And then also the tier 1 tank item in the jungle. They adjusted. The name is Shimmering Spark. So this is gonna be very interesting, and after playing the patch the whole day, I can say to you guys that tanks are unbelievably tanky, and it's definitely gonna change a lot of item builds and a lot of champions that are gonna be meta. Because some champions are really good against tanks, and I think those tank killers, those anti-tank champions are gonna be key on how to play the new patch. And on top of that, obviously, a bunch of tank champions are going to be much better in the jungle, in the mid lane, and also in the top lane. So if you guys are interested about my opinion as a challenger player on how good these champions are in each role, and you want the in-depth explanation, then definitely make sure to watch the video completely, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to support the channel, and not to miss out on any of those future clickbaits on the tank champions. Dr. Mundo, Amumu, Shen, Malphite, Pyke jungle, also new insane hot pick, plus Pyke mid lane just broken as fuck. So stay tuned and let's get started. Remember guys, this is my personal opinion and an orientation for you guys, so you guys can understand, hey, okay, these champions are good in a challenger's opinion. Orientation. You don't have to listen to me, but I would recommend it. I would recommend it, honestly. But yeah, let's get started with the Baronane tier list. So, as you guys can see, it looks a little bit different than what it usually is. Tank champions, more popular. Some anti-tank champions are also going to be much better, and I'm going to cover everything for you guys. So let's get started with the first champion. Remember, this is not in an order, because some people will never get it. It doesn't mean Gwen is the best. It doesn't mean Shen is the worst. They are all just... I just put them in here. I just want to highlight Gwen, though. I think Gwen is going to be a very important champion in this meta. Because a lot of tanks are becoming super unkillable, and Gwen has true damage plus percentage damage. So she is one of those anti-killer tank champions that are going to be very important to counter the tank meta that is gonna, that's upon us, or that's already starting to rise up. Because people haven't realized the potential of the new item builds yet. And if you guys don't want to miss out on all those new item builds for the tanks, you guys really need to activate the bell, because I have so many good item builds ready for those tank champions. So Gwen, very good, insane hyper carry in the late game. Aatrox, still one of the best juggernauts in the game. Super strong, a lot of sustain, a lot of crowd control. Garen received a huge buff, and now he's almost unkillable, especially with Heartbreaker in the 1v1. He's very hard to deal with, and the second ability giving you even more resistance right now. A very beginner friendly champion, and with a new Twin Guard, he is just so tanky. So trust me guys, if you guys are a beginner in a Baron lane, Garen is the go-to pick for you guys. Now the next champion I want to highlight is Fiora. Fiora, because she has true damage plus percentage damage, she is going to be a key split pusher against those tanky champions in the Baron line. I think if you guys are tanky, if you guys are maining a tanky champion, you need to ban Fiora, because she is gonna counter your playstyle and it's gonna be a menace for you guys. So you guys need to ban Fiora if you guys wanna play a Shen or a Malphite, because she will kill you 1v1 and she will create too much pressure on the sideline that you can't rotate for those team fights. So Fiora very good in this patch, getting even better, because the more tanky champions you're facing, the better it is for Fiora because of all her percentage damage and healing. Then Camille also with the percentage damage, true damage. Actually, she doesn't have percentage damage, but with the true damage as a Divine Thunderer box split pusher, very good against tanks as well. Jax, same. Divine Thunderer, Blade of the Rune King, very strong split pusher. And if those tanks want to rotate, then Jax can just get 2 turrets at the same time. So mastering the art of split pushing is going to be very important in this patch. When there are so many tank players that want to join those teamfights, you want to create the pressure against them, and you want to deny them from joining teamfights by creating enough pressure on the map that they have to hold the lane. Do you guys understand that? So Jax, also great duelist overall and a late game monster. Wukong, still one of the best bruisers in the Baron lane, super tanky, insane amount of sustain, and very good in teamfights as well. Gragas, whether you run him AP, you want to run him hybrid, or you want to run him tank, he is overall a very solid and strong champion. Jace got buffed, making him even stronger. His early game is one of the strongest in the Baron lane, so I guess hard to master, to snowball and win the game with Jace, but once you master Jace, he is in the right hand super strong. Next one, Renekton. Renekton got buffed, and in my opinion, he is very strong. I've been trying a new build on him, and I think honestly, whether you run the Bruiser tanky build or you're running the one-shot Trinity Humus build, if you guys are interested about that one, yeah, it's coming soon. So Renekton, overall, he is just tanky, he has good crowd control, he has good mobility, the ultimate makes him super tanky, and he's a great duelist as well. So overall, a great solid pick. Akali is still one of the best assassins in the game and super good at snowballing the game. Malphite and Shen. Malphite and Shen, I've decided to move them up, because Malphite with the Twin Guard and Shen with the Twin Guard, they are so tanky. They're just becoming almost unkillable. The only downside are like a few champions with percentage true damage, like a Fiora or a Gwen. But otherwise, against most bruisers, they are very hard to deal against, plus their team fights are insane. A good Malphite ultimate can carry a game on his own, and the Shen with some good ultimates can also carry the game, plus you have a nice taunt angle to hit multiple people, and you can run the Crown as well to do so much percentage damage now. So the combo of having the Twilight, those 3 new tank items are just crazy. Because one of them gives you healing when you're low life, and since you have so much HP, you're getting 1k healing in late game. Then the Twin Guard is increasing all the resistance, like the total resistance you have is getting increased by 30% when you're in team fight for like 5 seconds. So this is actually crazy. And then the other one is giving you additional percentage damage in combination with Sunfire that you can stack. And your wave clear is also better with that. So that's one of the reasons I wasn't sure if I'm gonna actually put them into S+. But if I think about it, you can play them against anything. And even if you play against Fiora, you can still play it out if you're rushing Brumble Vest in the early game. So Fiora, I would say Fiora, Gwen, and maybe Jax are hard to deal with. Actually, Malphite is very good into Jax. Just the downside is that he might be split pushing threat in the late game where you can't rotate anymore. But 1v1, I think just Fiora and Gwen are very dangerous, but against any other champion, you're doing more than fine. So I'm gonna give those 2 credits and I'm moving them up. Now the new champion. Like, how do you pronounce his name? I don't know. People have been saying to me, Argot or Yogurt. No one knows. I swear to God. I think he's very solid, honestly. Going for like a tanky build or for lethality build or even just a bruiser build. He does a lot of damage and he also has percentage damage that's scaling with max HP. So he's also great fit into the meta. Very strong in the early game. Good crowd control that he can provide in team fights, and he's also super tanky. Overall, for now, I'm going to put him S tier. I think that's a fair estimation from what I've seen and from what I've gathered by playing him myself. Then Riven. Strong hyper carry, but I feel like against tanks she will struggle. I feel like against a lot of matchups now that they're becoming so tanky, she might have a problem. Even if she's running Sandra, I think it might not be enough. But overall, strong hyper carry, high mobility. Set, great in team fights, straight, good duelist as well. But kind of getting kited. I feel like he might get better with so many tanks because of his true damage. Sign got changed. They made him in the early game stronger, but they also lowered the utility value that he can provide. Next one, Darius. Darius with his true damage can potentially be pretty good in the meta against tanks or against a lot of melee champions. Downside is if you play against high mobility crowd control team comps. Next one, Aurelia, a very high skill ceiling champion. You need to master her correctly to make her work. And I feel like, honestly, with the Sandra Borg, I think she's still doing fine. I still think she's a great duelist, high skill ceiling, and you need to know the matchups correctly. Yoni in the early game, maybe not the strongest, but in the late game, he is a monster that can hyper carry games. I actually moved up Dr. Mundo because I think he's becoming an almost unkillable champion. If the opponents don't have true damage, and if they don't have like a Vayne or AP Varus, I think you're just running. You can't die. You can't die on this champion anymore. He's just becoming so tanky, and all those new tank items are so good on him. And he's a great duelist, in fact. Even in the early game, he's pretty strong. And the moment you're getting like 3 items, and you have the twin, what's the name? Twin Light? Or Twin Guard? Twin Guard. Okay, the moment you have Twin Guard, unkillable. These new tank items are just so good on champions like Dr. Mundo. Like, they are just perfect synergy. A match in heaven. Dr. Mundo with the new tank items, a match in heaven. Next one, Singed. I was thinking whether or not I'm going to push Singed up, because those tank items are also good on him. Twin Guard plus Crown are very good on him, giving you even more percentage damage and resistance. The downside is, I feel like his early game is not that good against a lot of champions, and he's struggling against a lot of matchups. That's why I'm going to keep him in A tier. Pantheon, very solid in the early game, strong snowboarding champion, but he falls off in the mid and late game completely. Akshan, great counter pick into melee matchups, but also can be punished very easily. Then Cannon. Cannon is good in team fights. In the early game he's strong, but he's getting outscaled by a lot of champions. Yasuo in the early game pretty weak, has a lot of hard matchups in the Baron lane as well, but in the late game he has very good carry potential. Kassadin is in the early game pretty weak, has some bad matchups, but overall, I think he's allowed to scale a lot of times, but it takes a lot of time for him to scale. When he scales though, his late game is insane. Diana, overall a very solid pick and great in team fights. Teemo is strong in the early game, especially thanks to zoning and freezing. He kind of gets outscaled by a lot of champions, but his teamfight value is really not bad. Especially, well, Liandry is gonna get so much value for him in the tank meta right now, because he has so much percentage damage done. Zed, situational pick, high skill ceiling. Warwick got buffed, so I think his laning or Baron lane Warwick is gonna become much easier and better. So he has way more sustain, and he can spam his first ability more often. But overall, I still feel like it's a champion that is... He is good duelist, but not necessarily good in team fights. Gray's very scaling champion in the early game. He's okay or good against some champions in the early game, especially if they can't catch him. But it takes a lot of time for him to power up and become good. Tryndamere, I think the changes they did are a nerf for him. He's becoming much weaker in the late game. And the tank meta is not good for him. Tank meta is not good for Tryndamere. Because all these, like the Malphite, a lot of champions are just beating up Tryndamere or countering him. Nasus to scaling takes too much time. Olaf, I think after having to play against Olaf a few times, or having Olaf Baronin, I can just say this champion is too flippy, and a lot of times it's a bad pick. He's only good against a few situational picks. Maybe you pick Olaf against a Malphite, or maybe you pick Olaf against another tanky champion. Sure, then it works. Plus, it's only working when you're cheesing someone in the early game. Thresh, I think Thresh is okay. I was thinking if I'm moving these two champions into A tier. But I feel like why would you play them in the Baron lane when you can just play them in the support role where they're like 10 times better, or even Nautilus jungle is way better. I think it's okay, but there are other tank champions that provide more value and are stronger as a duelist. Vayne and Lucian, situational counter picks, but are very easy to counter. They are not as good as Akshan in comparison. Kayle is too scaling and too easy to counter, or too easy to punish at the same time. So therefore, I'm not a fan of Kayle in the Baron lane. If you want to play Kayle in mid lane, I think it's much better. But I'm not a fan of Kayle in the Baron lane. Let's move on to jungle. Wait, since we're talking about Kayle here, I guess we can put Kayle B tier here. Okay, let's get started. So for jungle tier list, I want to highlight Mr. Olaf, because I think in this current meta, Olaf is gonna become an insane hot pick, especially if you're running Twin Guard on him yourself. Like, he is so good against tank champions because of his true damage, and the only downside is like if you're playing against like, let's say, high mobility team comps, or with a lot of poke. But if you're playing against melee champions or tanky champions, he is so fantastic. Now let's move on to Wukong. Actually, Wukong is still a great jungler. He is super tanky, good ganker, and provides a lot of value in team fights. Diana is one of the most broken hyper carry assassins and does tons of damage. Aatrox still a very good jungler, does a lot of damage, is super strong and can carry games on his own. Gragas AP, a one-shotting monster. Morgana, why did I highlight her? Morgana, still a good champion. Like, she farms, she just power farms and then she pokes people down. Actually, she's very good into the tank meta because of Liandry. Shyvana still insane hyper carry. Kha'Zix great assassin to snowball the game. Super strong assassin when they're squishy. Lee Sin, good hyper carry, snowboarding machine, insane ganking monster. Evelynn, also ganking monster, snowboarding machine. Lilia, very good in this meta right now because there will be more melee champions and more tanky champions, and Lilia with her Liandry is going to be very good against those champions, and she's a strong hyper carry once you have 3 items. Pyke jungle is now viable. They have decided to make Pyke jungle super good. His first and third ability are insanely good in the jungle right now because you can clear much faster. He's a ganking machine monster. I think he's very strong in solo queue, especially if you know how to play him correctly. I wasn't sure if I put him S+ tier because I haven't played him too much myself, but from what I've seen, he's very good as a jungler already. I guess the downside is his 1v1 in the early game is not that strong. He is good to set up ganks, but not necessary to win a 1v1 against other strong junglers. Therefore, S tier seems to me more fitting. Argot, I'm not sure how to pronounce him, I swear to God. Insane jungle clear, good utility, good ganking potential. I think overall he's very solid, and anyone who says something else, just try him yourself. Like, this is not PC. This is not PC. Even the devs have been saying you can play this champion in jungle. Try it out for yourself. His second ability clears the jungle super quickly. Third ability is insane for ganks. Ultimate also very good in ganks. Like, he is actually solid, does a lot of damage, is tanky. What else do you want from a jungler? Nautilus, in my opinion, just so strong right now. Whether you're running AP or hybrid, I recommend hybrid because you have so much damage, you are so tanky, and you clear the jungle so quickly. A hybrid Nautilus is just so good right now. Then we have Dr. Mundo. Dr. Mundo is just an unkillable monster now. Unkillable monster. Dr. Mundo, no Vayne, no Fiora, unkillable monster. Amumu, new triple burn hybrid build, tons of damage, tons of burn damage, plus insane jungle clear speed. Sign me up. Plus insane ultimate in teamfights. Sign me up again. I've decided to move a lot of tank champions up because they are just so good right now. Do I think they are broken S+? Not sure, because they don't have the 1 versus 9 hyper carry potential necessary. If your teammates are bad, maybe or probably you won't be able to carry. Now next on Rammus. Rammus is a situational pick. I would recommend you guys to pick him only if they have like 4 champions, minimum 4 champions that do physical damage, then he's the perfect counter pick. Or if they have 5, even better. I think 3 is okay. But if they have too much AP damage, I would not necessarily run Rammus. There are other options you can go for. He's a spam ganking monster, but his jungle clear speed is not that fast. The new items actually do help him to clear the jungle faster. Especially the Sunfire is making his jungle clear speed fast as well. The same applies for Nunu, by the way. Nunu is a ganking monster, plus with the new tank items, he's becoming super tanky, and his jungle clear speed is much better. So farming and ganking is usually something that you couldn't do as a Nunu at the same time, because you either have to sacrifice your time by ganking the whole time, or you're farming. But as a Nunu, you always want to spam gank, but with the new items, it's going to be easier for you guys to also farm and gank at the same time. Jarvan, still a solid champion, super strong in the early game, great ganking monster, good team fighting, provides a lot of tank value in teamfights. Now, oh, I forgot something. I should move the cam, right? Forgot. Let me move the cam. Where was I? Shen. Shen jungle clear speed is much better now. He's so tanky as well. He has the taunt as an engaging tool. He has the ultimate to join team fights. And so you also have the split push value plus the safeguard for your hyper carry. Wait, Kayn got adjusted. Okay, blue Kayn got better, red Kayn got worse. But the thing is, since there's so many more tanky champions, red Kayn benefits from the fact that he does percentage damage and gets percentage healing. So the more tanky champions you're facing, the better it is for Kayn, in fact. Yone, early game not that strong, but he's a late game hyper carry monster. Darius, hyper carry monster, decent ganks as well with a third ability. Echo, hyper carry monster, needs 3 items, kinda slow in the early game. No star, by the way. Riven, hyper carry monster, high mobility as well, does tons of damage. Xin Zhao, decent mobility, super tanky, good frontline, good ganks, just super solid. Same explanation for Vi, by the way. Aurelia also can be a great hyper carry, high skill ceiling. Wait, let me drink something. Then we have Jace. Tons of damage. Great overall in skirmishes, good poking damage as well. Fiora, great duelist, great against tanky champions, great against melee champions. Fizz, insane assassin, kind of weak in the early game, but once you have 3 items, he's really strong. Gwen, a late game monster, late game hyper carry true damage monster. Camille, great ganker, especially with the ultimate to set up, has true damage as well. Kinda slow in the early game. Pantheon, fast-paced snowballing monster in the early game, falls off completely in the mid and late game, and he sucks against tanks. Renekton got buffed. Overall, pretty solid. Decent jungle clear speed, decent ganker, decent at everything. Rengar, very situational pick, can be a great assassin, but I feel like against tanks in this meta, Rengar isn't too great. Same for Zed, for example. But obviously these are like snowballing champion. Either they're snowballing, they're really good, or they're not snowballing and they're trash. Tryndamere got nerfed. Is too slow in the early game. Has some carry potential in the late game. Warwick jungle got nerfed. Made him weaker. Honestly, I'm not a fan of this champion. He's just not good in teamfights to carry games on his own. Jax, very slow in the early game. When he scales though, he's becoming pretty strong. Graves also very slow in the early game. Late game, very strong. Master Yi, coin flip, either bad or good. Kale, very weak in the early game, but once she's getting to scale, she's super strong in the late game. Now for mid lane. For mid lane, we probably have, I mean, I think I had Pyke as plus here beforehand, but what they did with Pyke is they made Pyke the most broken mid laner in the game. Do you guys remember Evelynn mid lane? This is Evelynn mid lane on steroids. High mobility, true damage, playmaking monster, plus insane wave clear right now with a third ability. They made Pyke probably one of the most broken champions that you guys need to ban every game in ranked, because in ranked you have fiestas and Pyke excels in fiestas. Pyke wants those fiestas, and then he just jumps, true damage, and he gets pentakills so easily. His playmaking potential and his roaming potential are just unmatched almost. So next one, we have Zoe. For Zoe, great poking monster. Yasuo, insane hyper carry late game. Kassadin, insane hyper carry late game. Akali, insane assassin in teamfight. Vex, also high crowd control, good assassination potential. Ahri has a charm, high mobility, and great assassination and carry potential. Diana, great hyper carry potential, is really good in teamfights, has tons of burst damage. Katarina, say it to me, say it loud, I want to hear it. Katarina, one reset, and she wipes you all, and pentakill. Karma, high utility, poking machine, insane in teamfights. Yone, godly in teamfights with 3 items. Hyper carry. Aurelia, hyper carry. I mean, it's very similar. Aurelia, like, okay, let's explain it more. Aurelia is very good in 1v1. She's very good at snowballing games. She needs high skill ceiling and matchup knowledge, but a lot of matchups are in your favor as Aurelia because she's so strong in the 1v1. And then in teamfights, when you're snowballing, you can carry very hard because you have so much damage, sustain, bam. That's what I mean when I'm saying, oh, hyper carry monster. Corki. Now I'm gonna move him down. Singed. Singed! My man Singed! It is becoming much better with the tank items. Playmaking monster, late game god. Early game he's okay. He might struggle a bit against some champions in the early game, but overall, when he gets to scale, he is just a nightmare to deal with. He becomes too tanky, he has too much core control, and he has too much catch potential. Jace, strong in the early game, good poke. Corki, good poke, he struggles against some matchups though, and his package is not as reliable in teamfights because you never know, like you can collect the package, maybe they're fighting already, or maybe you're coming too late, or maybe it's gonna run out before you're actually fighting. Gragas, very solid champion. Galio, great utility, good poke and good frontline. Akshan, one. Oh, wait, I forgot something. I forgot Akshan jungle. A tier. Honestly, it's not bad at all. I've played it. The top 1 Akshan player plays Akshan jungle, and he has very good carry potential, good at ganking as well, and good jungle clear speed. So Akshan mid lane, a very strong lane bully, can rotate and try to snowball, and he does tons of damage. Fizz in the early game maybe not the strongest assassin, but once he has like enough items, 3 items, he will just keep one-shotting you left and right. Orianna, Ziggs are very solid control mages that are very good in teamfights and provide a lot of poking damage. Zed is a great assassin. In the 1v1 he's super strong, great at split pushing as well, and great at catching people off guard with his ultimate. Twisted Fate with the ultimate can snowball the map with his roaming potential and with his catch potential. Lucian, high mobility burst damage. Fiora, insane in the 1v1, great duelist, great in skirmishes, and great at snowballing the game. Overall, like I said, she is a champion that can counter tanky champions very well, or a lot of melee champions. Like if you're facing a lot of melee champions, and if you want to have more true damage, or even in some matchups, she's very good to counter them in the 1v1, then go for Fiora. Especially if you have already an AP jungler or AP top laner, then that's fine as well. Pantheon in the early game, super strong, but he falls off. Has the ultimate to snowball on the map though. Veigar in the early game pretty weak, needs to scale, bad roaming potential, but in the late game he can be very, very strong. Provides a lot of crowd control, plus a lot of burst damage. Echo in the early game very weak in the lane, but in teamfights he can be good once he has enough items, so he can one-shot people or provide crowd control with the second ability to stun multiple people. Now for Annie, in the early game she's pretty weak, but overall her teamfight and her catch potential can be devastating with a nice flash ultimate combo or protobot ultimate combo, but overall in the early game she struggles against a lot of matchups. Morgana in the early game is pretty weak, she struggles against a lot of matchups in the early game. In the mid and late game she can be pretty good with her poking value and the utility and the crowd control she provides in teamfights. Brand overall struggles against a lot of matchups where he can be assassinated, he lacks mobility, he can't really roam too well in the early game, but he can be pretty good with the right team setup in teamfights in the mid and late game, because he has a lot of burn and AoE damage. Okay, wait a second. So, for Mr. Aurelion Sol. Mr. Aurelion Sol is pretty hard to play, and to master his roaming potential is also not as easy because you need good macro. In the early game he's pretty weak though, so you really need to learn this guy, but he can be very devastating in teamfights, plus his roaming potential in the early game can be good as well. Actually, Garen is S tier, my bad. Yeah, Garen with Twin Guard is just so solid. Great tank, just great solid tank. Seraphine got buffed, but it doesn't really matter for mid lane too much. I think she's just too weak in the early game. Bad roamer, bad mobility, too easy to punish, too easy to kill. Has the ultimate in teamfights though. Kayle in the early game very weak, becomes a late game monster though. So if the game goes for 20 minutes, you have like 4 items and you're level 15, that's when you're really strong, but before that you're a minion. Let's move on to Dragon Lane. So I want to highlight 2 champions in this patch for the ADC position, and these 2 champions are Vayne and Varus. Vayne and Varus are becoming so important because they're insane against tanky champions. Vayne has true damage and high mobility. Varus has percentage damage. Like he does so much damage against tanks. Like AP Varus, they buffed AP Varus a lot, and AP Varus is gonna be a key against tanks in this meta. So these 2 champions are super important against tanks in this meta. Then we have Zeri, who's a strong hyper carry. In the early game maybe not that strong. Lucian, overall tons of damage, high mobility. Ezreal, late game monster, high mobility. Samira, the Katarina of ADCs, tons of damage, tons of sustain. Tristana, insane God mode late game with Yumi or Lulu. 4 items Tristana, just wipes everyone. At the moment you have 5 items, it's GG anyways. Saya, super solid ADC. She has the ultimate for some kiteback, and the root and teamfights can be very good. Corki, overall solid poking damage, plus the package in teamfights can be devastating to zone people and to do tons of damage. Also Lucian got buffed with the attack speed changes. Same for Jinx, that the second ability comes out faster. Jinx is just a bit weaker than Tristana in the early game, or she's pretty weak in the early game. That's why I rate Tristana over Jinx. Draven, on the other hand, is very strong in the early game, one of the strongest ADCs in the early game, but he has a very high skill ceiling. It's not that easy to play, and he doesn't have like dashing ability, so it's easier to catch him. So if you're not snowboarding on a Draven, then you're doing something wrong, and B, you will get outranged by other champions. Jhin in the early game is pretty strong. In the mid game he's also strong, but in the late game he's falling off in comparison to other carry champions. And I don't think Jhin is a champion that does enough damage to kill a tank. I don't think Jhin can kill Mundo, by the way. I don't think Jhin can kill Malphite. I can't see it. Like unless you're like 10k gold and Malphite is 5k gold. But let's say you are not giga fat as a Jhin, you will never be able to kill a tank in this meta. Never. You can't. Caitlyn, super solid ADC, high range, is just super solid. Same for Kaiser. Wait, why do I have her here? I think I had her here, right? Yeah, Kaiser still very strong hyper carry. Just has good assassination potential, has the reposition, has stealth, has shielding value as well. Just super solid. And that Q, burst damage 1+1 is insane. Do you guys know why? Because this is from this tier list. Some of the changing, because my last video was from a different tier list website, so I didn't adjust everything, maybe. Misfortune in the early game very strong. In the late game, she just doesn't match the others, and I think against tanks she won't be able to do enough damage in comparison. I think you need these two champions, or otherwise it's gonna be very, very hard for you to kill those tanks. Ashe, good playmaking potential, but I don't think she has the hyper carry damage potential that you want right now. Karma, Orianna, Lux, and Ziggs are great utility poking mages, overall decent. But maybe in solo queue not the greatest. Ver and Morgana are similar, but just weaker versions. And for Senna, I think Senna ADC is not as good as support, plus you need the right team comp, plus you need to play duo queue to play ADC Senna. Let's move on to supports. So, for supports, we still have the three champions, the Holy Trinity. Karma, Yuumi, and Pyke are the three most broken supports in my opinion, especially Pyke right now with the support changes and with the wave clear advantage that he has right now. It's gonna be easier for him to rotate and try to make plays happen. It's just an insane playmaking hyper carry. Yuumi is my most banned champion because she is just buffing one player to the point that that player just carries the game on his own. Yuumi plus any hyper carry ADCs, when she has like, or when the ADC has like 4 items, it's just GG at that point. If you didn't punish the bot lane enough, and they get to that point where they have 4 items plus Yuumi, they just carry on their own. Karma, insane utility, hyper carry, honestly. Utility, hyper carry, AP poke as a support. Senna, super solid, especially with the right team comp, provides a lot of damage and utility. Thresh, Gragas, Nautilus, Alistar, Rakan, Galio. These are all strong playmaking tank champions. Thresh with the hook, good playmaking. Galio, Gragas has the ultimate for playmaking, or the third ability as well. Then we have Nautilus, he has the passive to root people, he has the second ability that makes him tanky, the first ability to hook people, the ultimate to knock someone up. Warwick, dude, my brain. Alistar got adjusted. Alistar got adjusted, so it's even easier to play right now. Has AoE knock-up on a short cooldown, plus the ultimate makes him super tanky. Rakan has insane playmaking potential, has a lot of mobility, has the knock-up plus the taunt. Galio, global ultimate plus taunt. Very good against AP champions. Lux, I would say hyper carry support. Provides decent crowd control plus shielding. Jenna, great enchanter for peeling purposes. Nami, also great enchanter for peeling and playmaking purposes with a bubble or with her ultimate. Lulu, great buffer to boost one ADC to a hyper carry modus. Like Vayne, for example. Lulu Vayne, Lulu Jinx, Lulu Tristana, you just run them down. Ashe, great playmaking potential with the ultimate and provides a lot of utility and crowd control. Soraka got change. Actually, I was wrong with the thing. She provides a lot of healing value, and with the right team comp, you just make them so tanky. You make them so unkillable, basically. I think in this meta, actually, Soraka is really good. When you have enough frontline plus a Soraka, it's so hard to get through the backline or kill the frontline even. Leona, decent crowd control, but single target. Not as reliable or as easy as the others. Braum, situational pick, can be good against poking champions because of his shield. Also, the first ability is only single targets done. While the others have like way better playmaking or easier playmaking. Set, high skill ceiling, but he can be very good playmaker. Plus he has true damage. Sona, just too weak in the early game, decent utility and ultimate in the mid and late game. Same for Seraphine, exactly same reasoning. Morgana, also very similar reasoning. That her early game is very weak and her utility she can provide is not as good as other enchanters. Blitzcrank, coin flip champion. Most of the times, Blitzcrank players are just too bad and can land anything. So my opinion is biased on this one. Most 90% of Blitzcrank players are just too bad that I'm just thinking, fuck this champion, so don't play him. But in the right hands, he can be good, to be fair. In the right hands, he can be good. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this explanation for this tier list, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys have been enjoying it, and I appreciate any sort of comments and feedback for this video and your opinion. Write them down in the comments to and tell me what you guys think about the new tank items, what do you think about the tank meta, what do you think are the new hot picks right now, or what do you think are picks I underrate. Write it down below in the comments, and I see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.